Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be looking down.
Wow.
I mean, you can leave it so I can glance down, but
You ain't gonna be able to see it, so might as
see,
well.
it's ants running around on the screen.
And here's what's funny, Matt. So like
I'm getting behind closed doors, behind closed doors.
What happened when you had two directors in the room?
that is exactly why they have a director's chair. I need a chair.
No.
We need.
No.
I need a chair,
No,
and then
you're the talent. Let
No.
me be the director.
what?
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Listen, what's going on, everybody? We are back. I hope you guys are super excited. Cherie and I are freaking stoked. Today is almost a full circle moment, this particular broadcast, babe, and people have been clamoring for this information, and I think they're going to be totally, totally pleased.
So first I have to address the elephant in the room. As you guys can see, I'm dressed like an adult today. There's a special reason why I'm dressed as an adult today, because
Wow,
we're
we
doing
have-
adult things
We
today.
have company today.
Yes, we have company today, and so we have to act like we're adults today.
Stay tuned for the next edition of Behind Closed Doors
With
the
the
Brookses. Well, babe, we are back, and I'm telling you right now, this has been a full circle moment. When you and I moved here, it'll be 2 years in June. Oh, maybe I should introduce myself. For those that have just joined the channel, and maybe this is your first time, my name's Glenn P. Brooks Jr. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, a relationship coach. I'm a pastor. We do a lot of Bible studies with people. We just do all the things, and sitting here dressed in orange and all the things. It's
Marigold.
It's what is it?
I have marigold.
Marigold, guys.
Marigold.
That's an adult color for.
For an adult segment.
Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Cherie A. Brooks Jr., author, speaker, relationship coach, and co-pastor.
Ooh, that sounds official. And today we're going to be talking about some things, guys, that has been a long coming topic. Cherie, when you and I moved here 2 years ago, this coming June, we made a very, very intentional decision not to invest in property right away.
Right.
And there were some reasons behind that. But now that we, sort of are approaching that 2 year mark, it's like it's time.
Right.
Time for us to get serious about how do we want to sort of put our presence, if you will, or invest here in the market. Yes?
Right. And some of the reasons why we decided not to jump in to invest when we first moved here. Number one, we don't know the landscape of Panama. And we wanted to take the time to learn the landscape, and also just a little pat on my back, because I do have a little bit of a real estate experience. I knew that I did not want to just jump into a market that I didn't understand. And so being here for the last 2 years, learning the different areas, and now connecting with our dear friend Matt, who we're going to introduce in a minute, we're learning more and more about how real estate functions, how it is here, because it's not the same as in the U.S. And so just learning how the market operates here to make wise decisions when it comes to investing. Now, if you're moving here and you want to purchase because you're buying a residential property, that's something different. We knew we didn't want to necessarily own a property that wasn't working for us. And so we didn't buy a residential home at that time. And so our reasons, your reasons may be different, but we're going to get into some of that today.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and my honor to introduce someone who I can now call a friend. We have done all the things. Really, really quick story. You guys will remember about 3 months in, we had a bit of a health issue with this one. She broke her ankle, and we're not. It's my turn. Thank you. And this is my version of the story. I get to tell my side. So I was eating. It was a playoff. It was the beginning of the NFL football season, and the truth of the matter is that I was watching a game with some friends, with a friend of mine who had introduced me to his real estate agent and friend, and then I got to know him on the day that my wife broke her ankle. Ladies and gentlemen, That's a pretty good
Boy.
thing. Matthew Marx, he's a real estate professional here in Panama. And Matt, thank you so much for being on the show today, brother.
Thank you very much. That was quite the introduction. Thank you, Glenn.
So, Matt, one of the things that I want to do is I want you to kind of get into. You are a kid, Jewish kid, grew up, born and raised in Miami or the Miami metropolitan. I guess that's Dade County, whatever the whole thing is, right? How did you end up in Panama, bro? And tell people your story, man. This is y'all. I can't wait for y'all to hear this. Come on, bro.
My pleasure. So actually, I was born in New York, moved to Florida when I was very young. Did most of my growing up there, and after college, was living in Miami and fell in love with a woman, a first generation Cuban American woman who her family was living here already. So they asked, when I asked for her hand, they asked that we give it, a 2-year shot. So we said, sure, we're going to move to Panama, 2 years, kick it off the bucket list, and then we'll come back to Miami and start our careers. At this point, we're about 26, 27 years old. The first 8 months, I hated Panama. Could not wait to go home. We were living in David, Chiriquí, about 30 minutes from the Costa Rican border. And, for a young man that was living in South Beach to go to a town that had 1 traffic light and 2 casinos, that was a bit of a culture shock, one that I wasn't ready for. But after those first 8 months or so, we moved back to Panama City, and it was just a light switch moment for me. Right from the start, I knew that was where I wanted to be, and I was going to live here for much longer than those 2 years. So from 2 years, I've now been here going on 16 years.
Wow. I think that, and it's funny, Sheree, when we came here 2 years ago, oftentimes there are feelings you get living in Panama that you wonder, will it ever fade? You know what I mean? And not to, not to rub it in. I don't know what your life is like, but I can tell you that when you wake up, and right now I'm looking at the Panama Canal, right? Like that's the jungle right there. And for me, Matt, Panama, I did not expect Panama to have this much diversity. And so we're looking at the jungle. It leads out to the interior where the David, Chiriquí province, all of those things on the very end near Costa Rica, for those that don't know. Let's talk a little bit, and I want to get right into it because you need to know that this landscape is very different. If there were 3 things that people should in general know about real estate here in Panama City, particularly, and then we'll talk and we'll kind of venture out a little bit. What should those things? Sheree, you got something you want to add real quick?
First, before we get into the nuts and bolts, how did you get into real estate here in Panama? Because you came here as a young 20-something, married, didn't sound like you came here doing real estate. So how did you wind up getting into the market here?
Well, thank you for asking. How I got into, I have a marketing background. I was actually the director of marketing for a large firm here, and just wasn't happy anymore. After my divorce, I was with my girlfriend, and I said, I'm not writing ad copy. I'm not being creative anymore. I'm just supervising and reading spreadsheets, and I hated it. Hated it. Can't express how much. So I said, tomorrow I'm gonna just start looking for a new job, and I'm gonna go down a complete different career path. And the next day, literally the next day, I'm pushing my shopping cart through the supermarket, and the managing partner of Panama Equity, the firm I'm with now, Kent Davis, calls me. And he says, Matt, I'm looking for a sales guy. I don't even know if you're looking for anything. I haven't spoken to you in a couple of years, but every time I pray on it, your name is popping into my head, and I don't know why. And I said, man, Kent, do I have a story for you? So I took a meeting with him, and the rest is history. From day one, it was like a duck to water. I knew this is what I was meant to do.
Awesome.
Wow, that is awesome, because I think that unfortunately there are a lot of people that find themselves in an industry because it's where you can make money. It's kind of what it's the end thing to do. And I want people to understand that you just didn't arrive here. For those that don't know, Matt is fluent in Spanish. Which is beautiful, particularly as an expat coming here who you don't speak the language, and I'm going to say yet, because what we're going to hope is that you will lean into that and really delve into learning the language. But in the meantime, it really is cool to be able to have somebody sort of represent your interests that not only speak the language, but speak the culture. And so I kind of want to, I'm baiting you here a little bit, Matt, but can we drill down on that? Because I think that so many of our viewers may have this skewed perspective of what it's like to live here, move here, particularly engage in the real estate market because of, what they see on, and I'm going to say TV. We all know that's YouTube, and I'm a part of that platform, but at the same time, I even tell people don't believe everything that I'm telling you. Do your own research because I have a very limited perspective because it's just mine. So if you can kind of get into that, and I just kind of want to go over, if they're off the top of your head, three things that like you would want to know this.
Yeah, the top three things. First, Latin culture, Panamanians, we do want to negotiate. So be prepared to negotiate for a better price. Typically, you can knock off 8 to 10% off of an asking price right now. Time spent on market. In the United States, time spent on market, if it's over a month, people start to get nervous. Here, our average time on market is about 7 to 8 months right now. So it does take longer to move. And the reason that's happening is number three, we do not have a comprehensive MLS that you would have in the US, Canada, around the world. So there's a small MLS system here that only captures 15 to 18% of the actual market. So it's hard to get comps. It's hard to get some of the information that you would come to expect to help you feel comfortable that you're making a great deal. And that's why it's so important to work with someone that knows the culture, that knows this area more so than just looking online.
Yeah, Cherie, and I'm sure you probably got a couple of questions just as a follow up. But real quick, Matt, when you start talking about not a comprehensive MLS system, how do you find properties, and what can a person expect when looking for them? That sounds actually scary to
You
me.
just go knock on doors. Is your house for sale? Is your house for sale?
If the security guard will let me pass.
Right.
No, so we have third-party websites. We have the Encuentras and the Compra Aquila websites that you can go to. That creates a whole nother ball of wax because a lot of those properties may not even be available anymore. It's common for sellers to list with multiple brokerages. So you'll call someone and say, hey, I'd like to see this condo. Okay, let me get back to you. I have to make sure it's still available. That's something you wouldn't experience in the US because it's an exclusive agreement with one sales agent. That does create issues. And the other issue what people don't realize is a lot of the deals that we make are on properties that were never actually published on market. There's a bunch of chat groups that I'm a part of with other agents, with other sales professionals. And I can write, hey, I have a buyer coming in town. They're looking for this, this, and this. And they'll send me what they have that was never published on any public website.
Wow, 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 Cherie, you got something?
Yeah. So, just for my, because my brain is like, what? So in the U.S., particularly, like if I'm going to sell my property, I would call said real estate agent. I'd sign a seller's agreement with that agent, with that agency. They would be the only agency that would they would do the open houses, any contract negotiations. They would handle all of that. So you're saying here I could go to 4 or 5 different real estate agents, all with different brokerages. And this is the part that I do know, and they could all list them for different prices. List your property for different prices. So there is no, I mean, even as a seller, how the heck do you stay on top of that?
The short answer is you don't.
Okay.
The short answer is you don't. Now, there is the option to sign an exclusive agreement with one brokerage, and they will be able to put your property on the MLS.
Okay.
Now, when I do a property search, the first website I go to is the MLS because I know that these are all licensed professionals and they're going to know what's going on with the property. If I can't find what my buyer or my renter is looking for, then I'll start expanding the search to some of those groups and some of those other websites.
So the MLS that you're referring to, is that something that only agents can see? Or is it like I know in the US in certain states, there's a public version of it that anybody can go and look at.
And there is a public version here as well. That's
Never
correct.
heard of it. So
It's small.
right. Okay. So as a person coming potentially to buy a property or even to rent a property, how would I, just getting off a plane, how am I going to find a property?
I would encourage you to reach out to someone that knows the market. The two of you know, living here already, the neighborhoods can be drastically different. I've been with people that want to be right on the water, and then they get to Avenida Balboa and say, "Whoa, it's really loud down here." And I take them to El Cangrejo, which is in a very walkable neighborhood. It has access to the public transportation, and then they realize out of nowhere, wait a second, that's exactly what I envisioned.
It's what's funny is, and you guys are kind of leading into something that I had written down. Panama City is unique. Just to give you some context, approximately 4 million folks or so live. That's the population of the entire country, right? So I think the state of Kentucky has 4.4 million people in it. So think about Panama in terms of population, as big as an individual state in the U.S., right? There are many states that are much, much bigger here. The thing I want you guys to understand is that half of that population lives here in the city. So, and again, I'm just being rough numbers. With that being said, each neighborhood is extremely different, unique, and I won't say, when I say extremely, in other words, there are nuances in each neighborhood that you will find there that you won't find anywhere else. El Cangrejo, where you mentioned, is considered the walkable neighborhood. And when we say walkable, meaning you do not have to worry about stepping into the street. Right. Can you kind of drill down a little bit, maybe for the person who has never been here? And oh, by the way, guys, before we get too far into this, we want you to stick around. And if you've not subscribed to the channel, please do so now. Make sure you join the channel. If you want to be a part of our community, do that. But more importantly, we have a real estate information session. It's called Thinking About Renting, Buying, or Investing in Panama. We're going to give you some time to ask the questions of Matt. Matt's going to be there, and we're going to do this probably once a quarter is what we're thinking, where we're just going to basically give you an opportunity to come into a room and ask not only Matt, but his team, people that he decides, hey, you know what, we're going to talk about this subject, and I'm going to bring in a professional in this area, people that we work with, because when you start traversing the city, you'll find that those nuances matter, that you are working with a person. So can you explain to people a little bit, Matt, like what are the differences? People will come here saying, I want water views. You're not getting them in El Cangrejo, right? So can you kind of get into that and maybe what people might be able to expect?
Yeah, so a lot of times I hear people say, I need to be in a gated community. It's what they're accustomed to. Essentially every building is a mini gated community anyways, because there's 24-hour security downstairs. So there's a bit of an education curve. What I try to do is just an interview with someone before they even arrive in Panama, get an idea of what they're looking for, and educate them on different neighborhoods. El Cangrejo, very walkable. Punta Pacifica, right on the water. It's a posh, upscale neighborhood, but there's a lot of congestion because there's a lot of luxury high-rises there. Costa del Este, also very expat-centric. There's a lot of international executives that are working at the Latin American headquarters of whatever multinational corporation they're with. But it also, some people feel it feels a little a sanitized version of Panama. Yeah. So there's a bit of a combination. Santa Maria, that's the top end, gated community right now, but it's not near the water. It's on a golf course. Right. So there's plus and minuses to each neighborhood.
And I think that's good. I think that when you get ready to purchase or rent anywhere, if you're relocating, you have to kind of have your I won't even say a wish list, your list of your non-negotiables. You have to know what you really need. And that's one thing that I run into oftentimes when I do my taste and see consultations with people. I'll kind of take them through trying to figure out what exactly they're looking for. And oftentimes people, because of things that they see, and things that they've heard, they have this thwarted opinion of what's available in Panama. So there are numerous things you've seen online, maybe people saying, people talk about it's cheap to live in Panama. Number one, it's not cheap to live in Panama. You can live at different economic levels here in Panama. But if you are, particularly for my American brothers and sisters, you're used to certain creature comforts. We're used to living a certain standard of living. If you want to maintain that standard of living, you're not going to get a house for $40,000 and you're not going to pay $300 a month for rent. I'm sorry. I want people to have a realistic expectation when they come. And that's one thing that I love about you, Matt, is like, you're going to give them the real. Like, if I come to you, I call you, I settle thing. Okay, so I want to spend $60,000 and I want to buy a house in Punta Pacifica. Can you find me one?
It doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. And cheap is a relative term,
Yes.
right? If you're used to living on on a smaller salary and you think it's going to extend here in Panama, it can, but the non-negotiables are just so important because you don't want to come here and feel like you're living a lesser quality of life.
Yeah, and speaking of which, we're going to go and actually view some properties today with you. And one of the things with that particular, maybe wherever you're going to take us, with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about what people can expect. Because when people come to visit us, I think one of the biggest things that it's sort of a dropping experience for them. It was for us, and that is, wow, I did not expect all of this in this high rise, right? Walk people through like some of the things that they like. I'll just give you one that just kind of messed my head up. I can't remember the last time I went into a place in the U.S. That didn't have carpet somewhere in the in the apartment or in the home, right? Especially, I grew up in the northeast section of the country, and it's cold. So getting used to tile and marble and things like that. I've never been the person that even thought I would like that, because it felt cold to me. It didn't feel warm. It didn't feel snuggly and cozy. But again, I'm coming from the Northeast. Can you walk people through some of the expectations and some of the things that they may experience?
You got me with the carpet. I haven't thought about that in years. No more electric shock though.
No.
Yeah, there's gonna be quite a few differences. One thing, we travel a lot. Because of where we are located in the world, it's easy to travel throughout the Caribbean, through South America. My wife and I travel. We always have to remember to keep our dehumidifier on when we leave because it's humid here. You can create a mold problem, specifically in closets that are closed and dark. So it's those little tidbits that you want to think about. Living in a condo, for me, moving to Panama, it was the first time I was living in a condo as well. And I wanted to be in a single family home. I came down here saying, I'm going to find a single family home. And boy, was I in for a rude awakening. You see that skyline where you're flying in, and you said, there's not going to be too many options out here. And then I found out I love living in a condo with all those amenities, a pool and a gym in my building, 24-hour security, concierges during the day to help me with my groceries to bring them up. There's just those little creature comforts that you come accustomed to. And again, traveling, when we're gone for a few weeks, I lock the door and I don't worry about anything. I don't worry about a flood. I don't worry about my roof blowing off. And then, me coming from South Florida, it was the extra blessing of not putting up hurricane shutters.
Yeah, that's funny, Cherie, when I think about that, because I don't think, were we here? We were almost here, like in terms of our planning, when we found out that Panama doesn't have hurricanes. I don't think we knew that.
I learned that early
I don't
on. That's why I
remember that.
went on the list, because we didn't have to worry about that.
So
Yeah, you don't. So because of where Panama is situated, there are no hurricanes. You don't get even really tropical storms. I mean, we get rain, but you don't get, you're getting like the way, way, way outer bands of anything. You don't have to worry about any of that here. And so that's definitely a plus. One thing too, I think a lot of people, and this is something that I've run into a lot when I do these tastes and see, people really don't know anything about Panama. I mean, I know like when we first moved here, literally talking to friends and family, I'm like, me, number one. Do you really? Because they're like, oh my gosh, when we sent them pictures, they was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it looked like that. I was like, did you think I was moving to a jungle? I mean, what, you thought I'm gonna be living in a hut? I'm like, I think people just really don't know Panama. And even as people are doing their research, there are so many different, is it biodiversities? Different areas in Panama with different climates and different ways that you can live, because you can get a single family home, not necessarily in the heart of the city, but you can go outside and get a single family, a little further outside the city and get a single family home. But there are trade-offs. If you want to live in, is it Panama Pacifica?
Yep, exactly right.
You have to come across the bridge to come into the city, and what could normally routinely be, or is supposed to be, a 20-minute drive could very easily turn into an hour and a half to 2-hour drive, because you're coming across that bridge every day. And so it's a lot of things that you have to consider based on what you want, what your needs. Like living in the city, we chose not to have a car because we don't need a car. because everything we do for the most part is in the city, and because we're not out and about every day, we don't have to worry about that. But those are things you have to consider also when you're looking. I know for me too, because we were living in a condo prior to moving here, condo setting, this was a natural transition for us. But I can see how for somebody coming that's used to being in a 4,000 square foot home, you move here to Panama.
For sure.
You touched on something. Yesterday I was on a tour with a family from the DC area, and they single family home all the way. You know, they live in Virginia. After our interview last week, I said, listen, I have to show you this condo in Costa del Este. Just bear with me. We're going to see it. It's 3,000 square feet. It's a big property. And they fell in love with it. But we still went down the boxes. You know, I showed them a couple single family homes in Panama Pacifico, and she was asking me, where's the bus depot? There's no bus depot in Panama unless you're in Albrook. And then I showed them the neighborhood, and she says, this is not at all what I envisioned. And we went back to Costa del Este, and we continued the tour.
Here's what I want to do, and we're not going to give you guys everything there is. We're going to get up. We put our adult clothes on today, and thought we would make Matt look good, because we don't normally dress up here at all at any level. Last time Matt was at the house, he had his slides on. So unless we're doing something adulting, that's not the case. But I do want to encourage you guys. If you are interested in jumping in a real estate information session along with Cherie and I, Matt will be there. He'll probably have a few of his teammates. We want to kind of delve into your questions specifically. If you are looking to do a scouting trip, maybe you are interested in moving here. You've been doing some research. Panama is on your radar. You don't have a real estate agent. We're going to highly recommend that you give Matt a call, that you really kind of sit down with him. One of the things I will say, although we have not purchased with him, we have friends that have.
Yes.
And I hope by now you guys know us well enough to know we're not bringing anybody on this platform, not with us, that we have not vetted, that we have not said, you know what, nah, this joke is legit, and there's no funny business. I think one of the biggest challenges from the outside looking in, Matt, is that when people don't know people, right? They don't know who to trust. They don't know why. And so you may be sitting there ready, willing, and able to invest. You just don't know nobody. This is that kind of a session that you should come to, and we certainly would love for you to be there. Sure, you got something?
And the other thing, Matt speaks English. So don't discount that, because you can come here, try to find your own agent, but are they going to be bilingual? Are you going to be able to communicate with them? And when it comes to these contracts and everything, you need somebody that can really communicate with you so you understand what it is that you're signing, what you're getting into. Don't try to use Google Translate for a contract and talk about, oh, I can figure it out. You can.
Here's the other part, which you don't want to know. Matt's wife is a lawyer, and the other side of that equation is, what happens if it goes left? Yeah. Like, how do you even figure that out? Because I can promise you this, the legal system works very differently here in terms of rights and things like that. So there's a lot to learn. That's what this information session is about. Matt, anything in closing you'd like to share with folks, just to kind of give them maybe a heads up, or maybe pique some interest in jumping in that room with us?
One thing I'd like to point out, you mentioned the 3 questions at the start of this. It's popped into my head. Panama's mañana mentality. Mañana mentality. I hear it all the time. Oh, I was talking to this guy, but it took him 3 days to get back to me. 3 days is too much, but it will happen. Yeah. So just be prepared for mañana mentality. And in that session, you know, there's going to be all kinds of little tidbits that pop up that maybe are not on the top of our head right now, but there's always stories. I have stories for days, good, bad, indifferent. Importance of doing inspections and the importance of getting comps. If you speak with an agent or with a real estate professional who says, "Oh, you can't get comps here," run for the hills. They're available. They're just harder to get.
Wow.
Good to know.
Wow.
Yeah, so you guys check the description. The link is going to be there for you guys to sign up to register to join us on June 25th for the real estate information session. Bring your questions. Sit down, jot down all your questions, bring them. This is going to be a Q&A session where you get to ask. your questions are. If you are coming prior to June 25th and you want to get in touch with Matt, I'm going to also have a link in the description as well, so you can just reach out to him and his team. Go ahead and get scheduled, do an interview with him. Well, not an interview, I guess an intake session with him so that he can answer your questions and get you set up so that when you get here, he can go ahead and get on the ground running with you and get you in to see some properties.
Yeah, and just so that you guys know, we also are going to talk about how to secure rentals and purchases and things like that within that community. We're going to talk about investment opportunities and market tips. There are people that Matt have as clients that own property here and have never been to Panama. And when I say never, maybe once or twice, but they own multiple properties here. So all of the things relative to where you may be on the spectrum are going to be not only represented but spoken to, and quite frankly, you can get a real question answered in real time, and relative to your specific scenario. Because, babe, that's the thing that I think that is both good and bad in a lot of ways. It's great that Panama offers sort of a little bit of everything in one sense, but what's tough is sometimes it's not a place where you can go and find that in one centralized place. And so knowing someone like Matthew is important, because you just will spend a lot of time, a lot of money, and you'll frustrate yourself unnecessarily. And I just think that life is way too short for that. Matt, thanks, man, for coming through. Appreciate you for everything, bro, and I'm excited to have you back.
Likewise, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Great, great.
At the end of the day, here's what we know to be true.
You can't get to any place of significance
by yourself,
because we all
need
some help.
Help. I need somebody help.
Help.
Listen, help me.
Help me.
Y'all be good. We'll talk soon.